Hey everybody, and welcome to Embroidery Legacy's Facebook Live. I'm John Deere, and first off I just want to welcome all of our replay viewers, those of you who weren't able to get here right at the beginning and catch this. We are going to be talking today about ESA Elements, and we're going to be talking about tie-in, tie-outs, and join closest point. Before we do that, though, is there anybody here, Jennifer, do you know? I think there's only a couple people who've joined us. Here's the thing. Last week at this time, my son Jesse and I were actually in Orlando. We were at the Brother Convention where they reveal all the machines, and we were there for a very specific purpose, and that was to sign up events for next year. I'm kind of happy to say, and a little bit scared at the same time, but we actually signed up all of our dates for next year in a matter of 4 hours. So we have a very busy year ahead of us, and starting in September, we're going to be hitting the road again. Now, I know we've been doing the Facebook Lives on Friday, and a lot of that was so that our friends in Australia could catch us on Saturday morning at a reasonable time. We thought that with our schedule coming up, it's going to be almost impossible for us to actually do Facebook Lives on Friday because those are event days, and we had to try to come up with another day. So we're going to do Tuesday because that's the time that I'm most likely at home. And just want to say hi to Sandy from Missouri, and Belinda and Connie is there. So there's 3 of you. That's good. All I needed was a couple people, so we are good to go. Anyways, I got to tell you though, I was pretty amazed when I was at the Brother Back to Business convention because we saw some of the new toys that are out there. And have any of you seen the new machine? It's called the Luminaire. Did anybody see that one yet? Give me a number 1 if you've seen it, because it is incredible. Every time I think that they couldn't do anything, more impressive on one of these new machines, they just do something that I couldn't even imagine. I was amazed when I first saw the Sew Man. That was the placement sticker that allowed you to, line up something and hoop crooked on purpose. That amazed me. And then I saw the scanners that were being built into the machines on the 10 needle and on the Dream machine, and that amazed me. And now they've gone a step further. They've actually built in projectors on these machines, so the design that you're going to be sewing gets projected right onto the garment that you're doing. And I don't know what they could possibly think of next. But they also have announced that there's a gigantic hoop that comes with that machine. It is like 10 inches by 16 inches. It's just incredibly huge. So that was something that was really, really cool. Iris is there, and Yvonne from North Carolina, and Marianne from Alberta. Hi to you guys. So anyways, I was just amazed when I saw that piece of equipment. I hope that they build it into the actual 10 needle machines in the future, because that would be pretty cool. I want a projector on one of those as well. Another thing that I did see, which was awesome, is the Scan and Cut. There's a new Scan and Cut coming out called the Scan and Cut DX. And if you have one of the cutting machines for appliques specifically, we talked about appliques last week, you know that they're just incredible. They save a huge amount of time. This one looked extra impressive because they've actually fine-tuned it so that it it automatically senses the pressure of the material that you're cutting, and it automatically adjusts for that, and that'll solve like 90% of the problems that people have with their cutters. The other thing that really impressed me is it will automatically, from a PES file, it will actually, you can choose your running stitch outline and it will automatically cut from that. So it was great being there and seeing all these toys kind of first before other people got to actually see them, but I was just incredibly impressed. Now, one other thing I do, I also want to thank Rob and Rena from Lakeside International School, and that's where we are again this week. This is live from Guanacaste, Costa Rica, and they have allowed us to come and use their facility because they have incredible internet with fiber, and we are waiting for that to be installed at our location. So anyways, we thank you for letting us be here. The other thing I did want to let you guys know about is we have something really big coming up actually on September the 14th, and that's going to be our big reveal for this. But if you watch the first actual Facebook Live that we did, I showed a video of my grandparents' factory back in 1958. Give me a 1 if you saw that. If you didn't, make sure you go to our YouTube channel. It's John Deere's Embroidery Legacy, because we have all of our previous Facebook Lives there. And there's actually footage that I found of my grandparents in the factory back in that time. And this year we're celebrating our 60th anniversary. And that's a pretty huge deal, because we're 5th generation now. My boys are in the business. My grandparents started this at 60 years in. And we're putting something special together for our 60th anniversary. One thing that we did do, and this is just a little teaser, we did hear the rumor that we were going to be getting those big hoops coming out on the new machine release. And we thought, you know, if you're going to have a big hoop, you really should have big designs. I mean, if you have an HD TV, you don't want to put in a, you know, Betamax. You want to actually high definition. So we thought we need to do some impressive designs, and that's what we actually showed when we were at the convention. And we do have a big design bundle coming out to celebrate our 60th anniversary. And I'll show you one of the designs, and this is actually pretty cool. It's pretty impressive. To give you an idea of how big this is, it's actually gigantic. It is the larger than my head, but you can see the detail in this design, and all the registration is perfect. So we've come out with a series of designs. This is just one of them, but we've come out with a series of designs that are broken down into multiple files and different densities that people will be able to run to celebrate our 60th year. So that's also something that is actually really, really cool that we're looking okay, and I wanted to say hello to everybody that's there. Carol from in Australia, and Robin says thank you. So this is pretty cool. I am amazed at technology these days, because we can be everywhere all around. So I'm in Costa Rica, my son's in Canada, we have people from Australia joining us. So this is just so much fun. Okay, now one thing that I did want to share with you guys, I showed one of the ESA Flexi fonts last week, and I do kind of want to clear something up quickly, because we had a bunch of questions after that. ESA fonts are specifically for the Wilcom platform, and they will run in either E4, which is Wilcom's commercial software. They will run in Hatch, and they will run in the Genome software that is made by Wilcom. I'm not sure about the next versions that are coming out, but they are not stitch files. When people buy keyboard lettering, or they buy a font online, in essence what they're buying is a stitch file, and then they have to bring in the letters individually onto their software and do their layouts. Now there's something that has come out which is kind of cool, and that's the BX fonts, and they are actually lettering that are still stitch files, but they've been assigned a keystroke so they can be used within a specific program, and that does make it a bit easier, but you have to keep in mind that those are still stitch files. They have to be recalculated by the software. They're limited with what you can do, and it's a step above, but it's still not an ESA file. ESA files are like I guess fonts on steroids. You can pretty much control everything because they are object-based. They're not actually stitch files, and if you watched last week's video, you saw what I was able to do with a regular font. Now I'm going to go into my software, and I'm going to do a quick layout and show you something that is actually called Elements. And the ESA Elements are uniquely different because they are not regular fonts. The ESA Elements are actually a file where I digitized design elements and then assigned a keystroke. So if I go to my ESA files, I see that they're all listed here. I have Bones 25, I have Boston 15. Anytime that there's a measurement after it, it's one of the ESA fonts that I've generated, and that is the minimum size that you'd want to run those in. Now when I go to the bottom of the list, and I always identified the ESA elements with a capital Z and a lowercase z right over here, and then the name of the element. The reason why is I wanted them to fall at the very bottom of the list. I didn't want them to be part of the regular fonts because they are so graphically intense that they would actually start to freeze up your system. So if I took my characters here and wrote the word John, it would actually start to slow down your system because it's mathematically trying to keep up. Now I'm just going to choose one of these elements, but before I do that, actually, let's just come here. I'm going to increase the size to 50 millimeters right off the bat. And I like to make sure that I run all of my ESA elements at exactly 50 millimeters just to start so that they're not too small. And when I bring that in, we can see it on screen now. I'll make that a different color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the height of that and bring it up to, let's say, 198 millimeters. So it's going to be really, really large. And again, you can see whether it's really small or whether it is filling up a large size hoop, it's always consistent. Now, because this is not a regular font, I can come in here now and I can change the properties from a satin stitch to a tatami stitch at the click of a button. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to change the density to 0.8 millimeters, which is going to loosen up that density. And then within the digitizer module of Hatch, I can go into my editing tools and I can actually use this create outlines, and we used this last week, but I'm going to use the same thing and I'm going to tell it to do a back stitch, and I'm going to click OK. And then it's going to do a back stitch all the way around that element, and I'm going to choose a darker color so that we can actually see that element. So if I go to my resequence, I can choose that green, and let's make it a dark red color. So now I have an element with an outline or a border around it automatically. Now I can go back into my lettering, and I'm going to go back to my lettering. I'm going to choose a different element because you can choose as many elements as you want, and I'm going to go up to the elements, and I have one called crowns. We have crowns, we have corners, we have Celtic designs, all kinds of things. I'll go to my insert character so I can see what all of these are, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose one of these elements to throw onto the inside. And let's just choose this one right here, and I'm going to click OK. And when it comes in, I can also resize that, make it whatever size I want, and put it in place. And the same thing, right now it is a satin stitch, and if I did go into my fill settings and I use my auto split, you'll see how it automatically splits anything that's over 7 millimeters. But what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to also change that to a fill stitch. I'm going to change this to a gold color. Let's do the same thing, use a 0.8 millimeter density so it loosens up the density a little bit, and then we'll use that exact same tool that we used before, and I'm going to use the create outlines, and I'll just click on that same button and it will give me a stitch around the outside, which now all I have to do within my colors is grab that and change it to the same color red as the outside. So now I have two elements with loose fills. Now here's the other thing that's kind of cool. I also can go into that object, go into my fill stitches, and if I want to change that pattern so that I see a little bit of a pattern effect, now you can see that the patterns have actually changed. So now, hold on one second. My assistant here, I don't know if you noticed last week, but if you do get a chance to go to YouTube and see last week's video, we actually had a surprise guest. It was a deer that is rarely seen, and that's my beautiful wife Jennifer. So anyways, she accidentally turned on the sound on her phone. So actually I'm going to come back in here to my lettering, and we're going to go back to lettering, and now I'm going to go out of my elements, and let's choose a different font, and I'll go up to one that I know is, it's actually one of the fonts that I created. I actually like it. It's called Tracker. So I'm going to go down to my T's, and let's call up the Tracker font, which is right here. It's Tracker 30 millimeters, and I'm just going to put in the letters J and D so I have it as a monogram, and then I'm going to hit the H key, which will allow me to slide those over, and then I'm going to grab those two again and just move them right over there, and let's change that to a gold color as well. And then I can do the exact same thing with outlining it with my edit objects. And I'm going to outline that and give it a nice red running stitch. It's actually a stem stitch going around the outside. So now when we see this, and let's just grab that here. Now you can see I've done a layout. This is full front on a garment or on whatever you want, a placemat or on pretty much anything, and it's going to sew out beautifully. Now, I did do that this morning. I actually did that little example with a couple of the elements, and I ran it on my machine, and this is giving you an idea of how large it is. Okay, so it is filling up a full-size hoop, but when you look at the quality of those stitches and how everything lines up perfectly, it doesn't miss a beat. Everything perfectly lines up. It's nice and soft. There's very, very little, hard stitches in there. Well, there's no hard stitches, to be honest. And part of the reason for that is because those elements and those fonts were digitized by somebody who kind of knew what they were doing, and that was me. If you do have the Hatch software or the Janome software, or if you are a E4 user, you can actually get any of our fonts. We have like 570 to choose from now, and they'll automatically load into the program. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to own the digitizing module. You can actually just own Customizer, which is a program that costs $199, and it comes with 60 fonts, and we give you bonus fonts as well. I always tell people that if you like to do monograms or you like to do lettering, lettering that joins closest point, doesn't have unnecessary jumps and trims, you can change densities, you can change fabric types, anything you'd want to do to that lettering so you get perfect results. That's what Wilcom is famous for. That's why 90% of the world actually uses it. Now, I'm going to also show you something. Also, Jennifer's telling me to make sure, if you would like to, please hit the share button. I don't cuss, okay? I know my kids are laughing right now. Hit the share button. And is there any way we can edit that? No, this is live. Oh, no. Okay. So, one of those moments. Now, is there anybody live? Give me a little heart if you feel for me right now. Is there any hearts popping up there, Jen?
You look a little red.
I look a little red. Yeah, actually, that's true. And, well, I do have a tan. This is Costa Rica. Anyways, I do also want to share this with you real quick. We just announced a promotion. We at Digitizing Made Easy are an official Hatch reseller, and we actually sell the software for the same price as Wilcom does and all the other resellers. The only difference is we give away free stuff. I really believe in the power of the word free, and it does work. So we give away free stuff, but right now Wilcom does have a promo going on where you can get the digitizer on FlexPay, which means you pay monthly for it, and it's $99 a month for 11 months, and they will actually give you the 12th month for free. So that is a promo that's going on right now with Wilcom, and if you do it through our Digitizing Made Easy site and choose DME as your reseller, we'll still include the extra fonts and the education that we normally do. And also, for those of you who do want to give Hatch a try at some point, just keep in mind that they always have what's called spin to win. Anybody who downloads the 30-day trial, within that 30 days, within the monthly period, everybody globally who has downloaded, they pick one lucky winner who wins the digitizing software absolutely free. So that is also great. You have nothing to lose because you get to play with the world's best software. We send you the education and you're ready to go. Now, and give us a thumbs up if that sounds good. So it's a great thing. I am, as I said last week, I'm very passionate about Hatch because it's made by Wilcom, been using it for 30 years, and it is just incredible. Now, the other thing I did want to talk to you guys about and give you a little demonstration on are tie-ins and tie-outs and joining closest point between objects. Tying in and tying out, obviously it's really important to have proper tie-ins and tie-outs in a design. First off, if you don't tie in properly on a design, you can have the design unravel, have it come out as your machine starts up. Some machines do automatically do a couple stitches down in the same place first before it starts the path, but a tie-in will always have a motion where it ties back and forth and gives the machine some movement before it continues on. Now, tie-ins are necessary. Tie-outs are more important because if you don't have a tie-out and the machine trims, then you'll see a little thread hanging, and if you pull on that thread, it'll literally unravel, okay? And I remember I used to say this years ago, I've been doing events for many years. If anybody's been to one of my events, actually give a number 1. If you had a good time, hit number 2. Our events are lots of fun, but I said many years ago that when I used to fly United Airlines, for many years, the back of their headrests actually had the words embroidered on the back of the headrest that said, "Please fasten your seatbelt while seated." And I don't know who had that contract. This is going back about a decade ago, but they did not use tie outs. There was never any tie outs holding that lettering in place, and I always saw those little tails. And I got to be honest, I have, as an embroiderer, as a professional, I have a responsibility. My responsibility was to pull on that thread and see how many stitches I could pull before I actually had it catch and snag. And I got it down to one time, "Please fasten your CB." So I got rid of the entire E and the, no, that would, anyways, but that is actually what happens if you don't have a tie out. It actually will not secure the thread, and it can unravel after the fact. So it's vitally important that you have those. Now, the other thing that I'm going to show you quickly in the software is joining closest point. And this did take me a little while to get used to when Wilcom came out with this join closest point feature years ago. And that's because I was having to retrain myself. See, I learned how to do this 33 years ago, and the software that I used 30 years ago was nothing close to what you guys have now. When we created a design, we had to think our way through that design perfectly. Every object had to connect to the next object, and to connect them, we had to travel with running stitches or underlay to make sure that there weren't unnecessary trims in a design. So everything had to be planned perfectly. I remember the first year that Wilcom added the join closest point into the software, I was confused because I just couldn't get it through my head that I didn't have to do that thinking anymore, and I actually worked almost against the software for a while. So I'm going to show you the feature. Now, this is built into the digitizer within the Hatch program, and I'm going to go back to Hatch, and let's call this up here. I'm going to call up a new window. Now, I'm going to go right away to my software settings. And in my software settings and under embroidery settings, there is a tab under design. It's the first tab, and in other, there is a button that says apply closest point while digitizing. Okay, now that is defaulted to always be checked on, and I do suggest that you keep that checked on. Now what that means, and I'm just going to digitize a small example for you, and I'll do it both ways. I'm going to go to my 6:1 scale just so that I can see on screen a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to digitize. Let's digitize in blocks. And now I'm going to digitize a letter I. So there's my letter I, and I'm going to hit enter. And I should have done that as a satin stitch, so let's change that to a satin. And I'm going to also change that color. Let's grab that and change it to a red color so that you can see it hopefully a little bit better on your screen. Okay, now what I'm going to do, actually let's make that a little bit bigger too, just so that you can see it a little bit larger on your screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the true view and go to stitch mode, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to digitizing, and I'm going to digitize a letter C. And I'm just going to do it freehand. It's not going to be pretty, but I'm going to digitize a letter C, and I'm going to hit the enter. Now, the other thing I have to make sure I do is make sure that I have it as the same color, and make sure that it is a satin stitch, and let's make sure that it is going closest point. Actually, you know what? I'm going to reverse here for a second. I messed up, guys. This is just to show you that I do make mistakes. Ask my wife. I make lots of them. Jennifer, are you going to pipe up? She's laughing.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, you're allowed. Yeah, okay. So anyways, here is that object, and now what I'm going to do is I have everything chosen. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to digitize a letter C here, and come fairly close. I didn't want to come that close. Let's just go here, and here, and here, and here. And let's hit enter. And it is not working. Let's go back to our user. Oh, that's why. Okay, I did not have it clicked. Now, let's use this as an example. Right now, under my designs, it is not checked for apply closest point. And if I look at this, it digitized this letter I, and it ended at the bottom. So right down here at the bottom was my last point. And then when I started the next object, it starts over here and jumps over, continues on, and then it ends right over here. And that is without join closest point on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the join closest point on, and let's go back to our software settings, go to our join closest point, apply it, press OK, and I'm going to digitize the same thing. I'm just going to do a letter I very quickly. There's our first object, and now I will do something that resembles a C, and I'll come pretty close to this object as well, so I'm very close, and I hit the enter point, and now you can see when I grab that object and I'll move it over slightly, but it automatically has joined right here in the design. So this will actually end up sewing, and you can see the first one's going to sew down. It's going to go all the way to the bottom, and then it jumps over and goes over to this side. This second one, when I do have the join closest point on, it automatically finds the closest point between the two objects, and it joins between them right here. And that's a huge advantage because it's going to save on unnecessary jumps and trims. So that's kind of the difference between having it on and off. Now, you might ask yourself, why would I ever turn it off? Well, sometimes I will turn off my join closest point if I'm doing objects where I want full control of the pathing, or if I'm doing appliques where I want to make sure that it actually steps out from the outline stitch to a certain point and then comes back in and does another object. So it is good to have the ability to control them or not control them. Now I'm going to show you very quickly the tie in and out features within the software as well. So if I come here and I actually do this object, and let's just hit enter. And if I zoom into the bottom of this object, you can see right here that this is my tie out. And if I go and select that object and I go to my effects and then over to my stitching, here within the connectors it says tie in before object. It says on if previous connector is 2 millimeters. I will always have that on. I don't like to have it off, because if you accidentally have it off, then it won't tie in when you start, and you could have the thread come out when the machine starts up. So I always leave that on. Now the tie off, it's the same thing, on if the connector is less than 2 millimeters, which means that it's working with your closest point being activated, but I can turn it to always. But here it's giving me two different methods. One is the tatami method, which is actually a fill stitch. And when I click this, watch what happens to my connector. Do you see how it just went across to the bottom? And if I turn this on, it's true view, it's zoomed in way too much, but it actually gives me these needle penetrations right here, here, and here. Now here's the thing. I would never want to have my tie out at the very bottom of a letter I, because the bottom of the letter I will then have a buildup of stitches, and it will actually push down a little bit further. By having the satin method, if you look at what happens now, you can see that the tie out is not tying out at the very bottom, it's coming up half a stitch and it's tying out into the satin stitch. And that is the actual preferred method that I like to actually have that set up as far as a tie out is concerned. So if you are doing a tie out on a fill stitch, then you could leave it that way. Leave it to a tatami method. If you also, let's just say this. I'm going to go back here for 1 second and let's show this. If for whatever reason I still don't like where that tie out is, remember you can always hit the H key, and I can see that there's a green and there is a red. Green is for my start, and I can change my tie-in position on the design. Red is for my stop, so I can go in after the fact, and if I want to make sure this ties up well into that stitch, I can actually move it up so it's further in. And when I go to my player now, and let's just go through this really quickly, I'll do this point, it's going to pan over, and there we go. It's going to actually go down to the bottom as it's stitching, and then because I moved it, it comes back up and it ties out right into that stitch. So you do have control of where your tie-outs and tie-ins are within your software. Now, I'm showing you this example in the Hatch program, but just so that you know, this is a feature as far as tie-ins and tie-outs that is available pretty much in every software program on the market. They all have the ability to tie in and tie out. Some of them allow you to choose the properties a little bit more than others. It's kind of amazing because if you are an E4 user, which is Wilcom's commercial platform, you'll know that there is a ton more options as far as fine-tuning your tie-ins and tie-outs. I like to think of Hatch as an incredible program because it's a fraction of the price, and it actually has, in my opinion, the best defaults that I normally use anyways within my E4 software. So, hey, we have a question. Chris is asking if the software is user-friendly support and education. Well, as far as being user-friendly, Chris, in my opinion, Hatch is probably the most intuitive and intelligent software that is available in the home and commercially Wilcom in the commercial industry. It actually does automatically put in the underlay, pull comp, and density for the objects as you're digitizing based on the stitch type that you've chosen. So a lot of the things that I've had to learn over decades of experience is actually automatically built into the software. It knows that when my satin stitch is this wide, it should only be a center run. As it gets wider, the satin stitch might have an edge run. When it gets wider than that, it should have a zigzag to hold down all of that material and then an edge run so that you're giving stability to your stitch. Any other program in the industry, you actually have to go into your objects and change everything as you're going along. And to be honest, it's kind of unfair because most home users and even most commercial people in the industry, they don't have, when they're starting out, the experience to know what all of those settings should be. So it is definitely intuitive and intelligent software. The one thing that I will say, and hopefully if you agree with me, give me a heart on this one for you guys who have had any of our education at Digitizing Made Easy, or if you own the Hatch software, we are 100% about support. It's all about education. We have videos that show you every single feature. We actually have videos that show you how to digitize. And I'm not just talking about, doing some automated thing. We actually have theory-based videos that teach you how to actually create designs on your own. That is on our Facebook group. We have actually Wilcom Hatch Facts Facebook group. I should also mention, and actually we're going to be getting ready for some question and answer period just in a second, but I should also mention that we have really tried to gear up, and this is really my son Jesse who has put this into play. We want to be consistent. We want to do Facebook Lives every single Tuesday, and we're going to try our best to keep that up. We also have a new YouTube video that comes out every single week, minimum one. So go to our YouTube channel, John Deere's Embroidery Legacy, and subscribe for that. Brand new video every single week. We also have a blog on our Digitizing Made Easy posts that we do every single week. And we have our Facebook group, which I think is incredible. And it's mainly because the people who are in it are incredible. I am amazed at how so many of the group members are in there answering questions and helping people that are just getting started. That shows me that what we're doing is working, because this is all about passing on information that we learn. I've always said I have no secrets. I learned how to do this a long time ago, and I was blessed because I had incredible mentors, Shifley mentors in the industry, and I never had the mentality of keeping everything a secret. I want to share it to keep this art alive. So in a couple minutes we're going to be doing more questions and answers, but really quickly, if you do get a chance and if you want to come to any of our events, number one, we have a Digitizing Retreat, 2-day Digitizer's Dream Workshop happening in Anaheim. That's September 8th and 9th, and that is hands-on. You actually create designs. You're not just going to sit there and listen to me. We give you the software, you load it in, I give you the artwork, and we digitize together. Next, in October 11th to 13th, we have an event with our good friends at Amy Bauman's, and that's in Cranberry, Pennsylvania. We actually are going to be there for 3 days. Day one is a hands-on digitizing, and then we have hands-on sewing, and we do hands-on sewing with probably the new machine that's just been released. So that's going to be incredible. Our third event coming up in the fall is another Digitizers workshop in Dallas, and that's October 20th and 21st. These dates are starting to fill up, which I'm very thankful about. If you've ever been to one of our digitizing events, give us a little heart or a thumbs up or something like that. Hopefully it was worthwhile. Unless people are lying to me, which I don't think they are, they tell me it's one of the best interactive experiences that they've had.
Carol was asking if it's the same as your lessons, the events.
Yes and no. There is some theory that repeats itself within the lessons, but and the question was, are the lessons that I have online the same as the events? We cover a lot more in 2 days, one-to-one hands-on, than we are able to within a video interactive lesson. So is it worth the experience? I would definitely say so. The other thing is, I love to have fun at these, and I call it I like to edutain. So we have a great time, and learning with a group of people, it just makes it even more fun. So yeah, we do go into a little bit more advanced techniques as well. We get into shading, all that good stuff. So once we are done at Dallas, we actually have, I think in November, we are at TOPS, and that is actually a digitizing course that we're going to do. Actually, I think I got ahead of myself there for a second. Okay. Nope. October 9th, we actually have a digitizing retreat on the 10th and 11th, but on the 9th, we're going to be in Tampa doing a How to Make Money session. On the 10th and 11th, we have another Digitizer's Dream workshop. And then the last one of the year is going to be in Fort Myers, and that is from the 15th to 17th, and that is a one-day digitizing and 2-day hands-on. And this is not confirmed yet because I don't have a contract, but it is, as far as I know, going to happen. We are going to be in Austin, Texas on the last weekend of November as well. So the last day of November, which, how many days are there in November, Jennifer? 31, 30, something like that. Yeah, 30. And then December 1st, we're going to be in Austin, Texas at Austin Sewing Center. So that's what's happening this fall. It's going to be busy, and we're going to have lots and lots of fun. So any questions come in that I can answer for anybody? I'm trying to cut this one a little bit shorter. Get the screen up. Yep, I'm trying to find it. Jennifer's, there we go. And now we have the question and answer slide. I was told yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, that I ran on a little too long. So my wife asked me to shorten this one up. And I don't know if I'm going to get it back on camera today or not. I kind of, no, she's looking at me now. I doubt it. So yeah, here she comes in. Okay, so you never know. She might make an appearance once in a blue moon, and we'll see how that goes. Other than that, is there any questions coming in? No,
no questions yet.
No questions yet.
But then it does take a while for.
Yeah, there's a little while for feed to come through. So, anyways.
What about the colors for the start and stop?
The what?
The colors.
Oh, the colors for the start and stop points? Well, it varies in every software program as far as what they actually use to show the colors. Within the Hatch software, they do actually show it as a red X for a stop, or where the tie-out's going to be. And the green triangle, or diamond, I guess that's not a triangle, it's a diamond, that is actually for the start position when you're starting. Starts and stops are actually really important in your designs, as are joining closest point. That's one thing that is a huge thing within lettering, and that's why I'm not a big fan of keyboard lettering, because every single letter has a tie in and a tie out after every single letter. And what you end up having is jumps and trims. And every jump and trim actually equals 120 stitches of downtime on your machine. By the time that machine slows down, ties out, stops, trims, moves over, starts up again at slow speed, and then ramps up, it's 120 stitches of time that you lost. So having good fonts or designs that are digitized properly, that really saves you time on your machine. So.
I guess hello from various people. Somebody in Puerto Rico.
Awesome. Somebody in Puerto Rico and every.
Yep. And asking about any other digitizing seminars for Australia.
Australia, I've tried to plant a seed for those of you in Australia. I've been there numerous times. If you've ever been to one of my events in the past and you're in Australia now, give us a heart. Somebody might be watching those, but I've been there on numerous occasions, and I'm really hoping that in the future I'll be back there again. I do work with Echidna Sewing. Gary is incredible, his family's incredible, and we have been partnering with them for many, many years. So I'm hoping in the future we might get a digitizing event going with Gary, and that really is kind of in his court. So you could help me a little bit if you want to, plant a little seed and say, Gary, you need to get John back to do a digitizing event there. That would probably help, but we'll see if we can get that going in the future. I always love visiting our friends in Oz.
Mary Ann was asking if there's any workshops in Arizona this coming fall.
This coming fall, we don't have anything in Arizona as of yet, or next fall. Next fall, we're actually working on our calendar right now. I know that there has been a couple people who have been asking that we would come to Charlotte over and over again, and we are actually planning on doing a workshop in Charlotte in the springtime. That hasn't been announced as of yet, and I don't think my wife knows about that one yet, so I have to get approval from the boss. But we are still working with finding out how many dealers want to host the one-day digitizing workshop. With the dealers, the brother dealers that we're working with, the way it works is we do a 3-day session. 2 days is hands-on sewing, and 1 day is an optional digitizing class. So odds are we did book potentially 12 dealers across the U.S. for next year, and if all of them sign up, and as they do, we'll announce those dates, and hopefully they'll be doing a 1-day digitizing workshop along with a 2-day hands-on.
And Chris is asking about advanced or detailed classes?
Advanced digitizing classes. That one, I got to be honest, it scares me, and the reason why is a lot of people have been to my workshops in the past, and they have asked if there is advanced workshops or classes coming up. The only issue is a lot of people think that they're more advanced than they really are. So it actually does really depend. And here's the thing, if you've been to any of my workshops, I try very hard to make sure that we have enough content so that a beginner gets something out of the class and somebody who's been digitizing for 10 years gets something out of the class as well. And I do have extra content to keep them happy. Doing an advanced class, it is so specific that it might actually be harder to do. Now, it sounds like the gardeners here at Lakeside have ramped up their machines, and they're doing some maintenance outside, and I think that just might be my cue. So I need everybody to do me a favor, please. I need you to all pray that we get our fiber in soon to our location. So, and I do really appreciate being here. It's awesome that this opportunity is open for us. But this type of thing, life goes on. We can't control it.
Yeah. I guess one other question.
Yep.
Amy was asking, with the digitizing software, is the online training better or coming to one of the workshops to learn?
The question was with regards to the digitizing software, if you get the hatch, is the online training better or is coming to a live workshop better? That's a little bit of, it's a hard question to answer. Number one, I do love the interactive digitizing training because you can do them at your own pace, at your own time, which means that you can go over them again and again and again. And that way, it really does make sure it sinks in. At the same time, the hands-on training being there in that type of setting, and I feel that we actually have it pretty down packed with regards to teaching people an incredible amount in 2 days. This is so much fun. Okay, we have so much content that we cover in the 2.5 days that I honestly think it's a very worthwhile experience. Will you retain as much? Will you retain everything that we've done in the 2 days? Probably not, but that's where the lessons that are interactive come in and are able to keep you motivated and going forward. Like I said at last week's session, digitizing is all about practice. And on that note, guys, I think we are done because they're doing stuff right outside the door here. So thank you, and God bless. We'll see you next Tuesday.